So this one's about bees, hornets, and wasps. Yeah? Now, do you ever wonder why things evolve to have stingers? I mean, what's the real purpose for wasps, bees, and hornets to have a sting? And scorpions?
Protection?
Protection. Nope.
Fighting.
Yeah, but again, what do you see them stinging? You could say, well, it's to protect the hive. Well, then what do humans protect then? Nothing. And what are our characteristics that we have that separates us? I mean, we don't have very big teeth. Our nails are less than good. We got a really good mind, but other than that, what is it? Not much, right? Or could it be that bees have adapted, and wasps, and different things like this, because they orientate around flowers? But you see, because you've not been around long enough, it's possible not to look at something and know why they have like their capabilities to sting. Their real capabilities to sting do not come apparent until there's less vegetation. When there's less vegetation, and you go near any vegetation, when there's less vegetation, they will sting you until you are dead. You see, because it's such abundance of nature and flowers and everything, it's quite abundant, you don't see it. When it starts to dwindle, that's then when they will have their protective mode. And it's funny because the pheromone that they release tells them exactly how much sting is needed in order to bring something down. Such as an animal, dog, cat, rabbit, I don't know, what else you want to say, hedgehog, human. You will leak a certain amount of pheromone after you've been stung multiple times that will then indicate to anything with a sting or venom how much you need before you're dead. So you could say that a snake bite gives the same amount of venom per, but that wouldn't be directly true. They would give more or less. And again, it's we're not talking about snakes in this one. We're talking more along the lines of bees and wasps and hornets. When there's less vegetation, that's when their sting becomes more apparent. You see? Because they protect it ferociously. You wouldn't be allowed to go near it, even if you had even so much as smelt of a crop. That's when their sting becomes apparent and why they have their stinger and their venom. Because you can look at most of the insects and animals and think, well, they've evolved this way. But why have they evolved this way? You see? It's very interesting, isn't it, really? But if you pull it apart, and again, this is just a theory, this is just what I think, so take it with a pinch of salt. Or maybe 2 pinches of salt, but there's nothing on the equal side as to why, when they're quite placid. And they seem to be, by and large, the only ones that really seek out this nectar and pollen, I should say, and different stuff like that. And yeah, and why they have that sort of ability to adapt to also pollinate more. The more pollination, the more seeds, the rapid expansion of nature. In the cycles of Earth, there is a 6% oasis that remains, vegetation. And birds and bees will know how to get there. Hornets, wasps, perhaps. And there you are. Isn't that an interesting thing? But there you are. What do you think, though? That's kind of makes sense then why they would have this stinger, why they do what they do. And at the moment when it's in abundance, they don't really mind. If you feed a lion and there was food in abundance, you're off the menu. When their food dwindles out, you're on the menu. Bears, when their food supply is abundant, you're off the menu. When it isn't, you are on the menu. Do you you see what I mean? And I think the same is, I follow another belief of being an adaptive eater. So if vegetation and animals disappear, then I will dig for worms and I'll eat those. I'll adapt to that. So if animals and insects disappear and there was only vegetation, well, I'll become a herbivore. Wait, because I couldn't truly be a vegetarian, because if I was eating wild, I would eat insects on this. And I don't think anything is truly a true vegan, I should say. Nothing's a true vegan. Because if a rabbit is eating a piece of vegetation and it has a slug or a bug on it, it's not going to worry about that. It's going to eat it anyway. So in its diet, it would have some life forms that wouldn't make it a true vegan. So does that make it an omnivore?
Yeah, that's omnivore, eating both.
So I think naturally all things are omnivores. Then, because we could say about a cat, cats don't eat vegetables and this, that and the other, but they do. Because if they eat a rabbit, and I know it's quite morbid, but if you've ever seen a cat eat a different animal, then you'll understand that it eats nearly all of it, apart from the entrails and a few bits and pieces here. But stomach content, it will eat. And therefore, if it's filled with grass or different things like this, it'll eat that too. So again, even the cat isn't a true meat eater, it's an omnivore. And so is the lion. So, you know, again, for small cat, big cat, it's the same difference. So everything then is an omnivore. And only a true vegan is a human thing. That's created by humanity, that to be able to clean the food completely of any insects or bugs or anything like this. So yeah, all other life forms are omnivores, and they're also adaptive eaters. So when their food supply dwindles, you're on the menu. This is on the menu. Foods that they wouldn't usually eat or don't like the taste of, they will happily eat when their food becomes dwindle, and their next young that will grow to eat that food will continue to eat it, and they will love it because they know no different. See, that's where it all changes. That's then when you have one of the steps of evolution that switches. The older cats might not like that, the ones that have been around and know the other food. But if that all disappeared and when it stinked, and then they moved over to another food source that they were very picky about, weren't keen on it, their young would know no different of this other food that mom or dad had. They wouldn't know it. So therefore, they wouldn't miss what they didn't know. And they would happily enjoy that type. And then there you are, they've adapted and now they've changed, and they've changed their eating habits. And then another food chain or cycle will be broken, and there'll be an imbalance, which then quickly moves over to find balance, but not all the time. And I guess bees and wasps and hornets are exactly the same, but in a way they will protect it ferociously, and that's where their sting comes into it. I guess the real question for me is not really how many times have they had to be put in this situation where they become more aggressive, and then there are times when the food's at abundance, they become slightly more placid. Then it gets shorter and shorter. It's gonna make them react, and they're gonna take action and to protect that food supply with everything they got. And so small yet so powerful because of their sheer numbers. And it's a gland, so they can produce quite a lot of that poison and therefore venom, and therefore they can bring down a larger amount of species very easily, quite quickly. Interesting, really. Then they really would have to work together, and they wouldn't attack each other in that aspect, because the more of them there are, the more of this spreading will start to happen. Interesting, really. So small, yet the biggest impactful gardeners of the planet. Eden. Bees. Wasps. Hornets. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to leave that one there.